How to buy or sell a manufacturer's rep agency. Today we're talking about best practices for buying and selling a manufacturer's rep agency. What should you know as a buyer? What should you know as a seller? Now, this video hits at a real high level. See the description below for a link to my article on this at aaronhall.com, and you can see a lot of best practices and pitfalls to watch out for. Now, there are some interesting issues that are somewhat unique to selling or buying a manufacturer's rep agency as opposed to other businesses out there. First off, a manufacturer's representative agency has one or more manufacturers who are principals. And typically the agreement with those principals is the principal has a right to terminate the agreement or to at least consent if there's any sort of sale or transfer of ownership. So that's an important piece. Second, typically this transition is not instantaneous. It takes a number of years. The seller wants to help the new sales rep who's buying the agency get familiar with the customers or the clients and build that trust and rapport with them. Likewise, build the trust and rapport with the principal, the manufacturer. So typically you have a multiple year handoff. Now, there are a lot of different ways to structure this. The first question is, when does the ownership transfer? Does it transfer at the beginning of a multiple year transition? Does it transfer over time? Or does it transfer at the end? For example, I've seen many deals where the buyer will pay for 5 years, and upon making the final payment, the shares transfer to the buyer. And there's principal, the manufacturer will give consent at that time. And by that time, the principal has already gotten to know the buyer so well, because for years, the buyer has been their main point of contact. The principal feels very comfortable with that. Conversely, I've seen where the buyer gets the shares right away, the principal signs off on the deal, or a hybrid of that. Now, another important part of this is the seller wants to make sure they get paid. The buyer wants to make sure that they have a revenue stream, a profit stream coming in, and that it's as good as the seller purports that it is. One problem that often comes up is buyer's remorse. The buyer says, you know, the business wasn't in the condition I expected. I assumed the relationships were better. I assumed the manufacturer or the clients were better, or there would be higher volume. Conversely, sellers often say, hey, look, the buyer isn't working as hard as I was, or as effectively as I would, or the buyer did something wrong, or the buyer hurt the relationship with the principal. So there's a lot of potential for problems to arise here. Other complexities that come up is you may have multiple owners in the manufacturer's rep agency selling to another generation, a new set of owners, maybe one or more. And so there, you have to think through, what does that buyout look like? And often there are different competing interests of the sellers. Some want to just get out and they're willing to take a discount. Others want to get paid over time, and they're most interested in maximizing what they're paid over a 5-year period. That raises the question of, how do you appraise the business? I can't get into all the details, but the simple version is that you typically look at a period of revenue, maybe a year, maybe a month or a year and a half, and that would be perhaps the sale price. But a lot of things will affect that. How strong is the relationship with the principal and with the clients or customers? The stronger the relationship, the more people are locked in for years, the greater the sale price. Also, if the sale price is based on revenue over a period of future years, typically it's going to be a higher sale price because there's more risk accepted by the seller. Whereas if it's a lump sum paid right up front, all of that risk of future years is on the buyer. And so the lump sum payment may be substantially less. So you can see there's a lot of room for negotiation here, but that's generally what experienced attorneys who work on these matters and negotiate them are going to be looking at and will be arguing. To learn more about this, you can see the link in the description below. There's an article I wrote on best practices, tips, and pitfalls. For similar videos for manufacturers reps or for sales reps, you can subscribe to this channel. You can subscribe to the email list that we have with a link in the description below. Or check out my website at aaronhall.com. Thank you for joining with me today. Again, I'm Aaron Hall, a business attorney representing businesses in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and the greater Twin Cities area.